Hey everybody, today I'm going to showcase a river biome trident farm, which is a bit more efficient than the ocean biome trident farm, but also requires a bit more effort, but it's still very simple to build. Alright, a bit of introduction first. In my last video I showed this nice little trident farm here that works with naturally spawned drowned mobs that are attracted by a villager and walk into a trap and are sent to the Nether dimension. Now this works perfectly fine. You get a decent amount of tridents with this farm, but after I made this video we also looked into better alternatives. So Gnemon looked in the code and he found out that drowned spawning depends on certain conditions, but we couldn't decipher those variables until we had a little bit of help from future Java developer Rock, and he told us that drowned spawning depends on the biome. So it's more likely that drowned mobs would spawn in rivers, that they spawn in ocean biomes and river and frozen river biomes. And yeah, they spawn more quickly in the river biomes, which makes sense if you compare the amount of spawning spaces. So there's really a ton of spawning spaces in the ocean, and compared to that, yeah, river biomes are very shallow and also not too wide. So in order to get any drowned mobs naturally in the game, the spawning rate has to be increased. According to that piece of code, the drowned mobs have a 1 in 40 chance to spawn in an ocean biome, and they only spawn if the Y level is sea level -5. So I went to a normal super flat world and made a 100 by 100 pool and built it in the lowest subchunk. So as you can see, there are very few drowned mobs. They are spawning very slowly, despite having ideal spawning conditions. So this is built in the very first subchunk. This is already a lot faster than you would see it in a normal survival world. As you can see, there are maybe 15 or 20 drowned mobs, and the mob cap isn't even filled. I did the same test in a river biome world. So this is again a 100 by 100 pool, and according to the code, the drowned mobs have a 1 in 15 chance to spawn compared to 1 in 40 in the ocean biome. So I expected this to be slightly faster, but to my surprise, they spawn like crazy. It takes about 4 or 5 seconds and then the mob cap is filled up. So there had to be something else in the code that would explain this rapid mob spawning. And I had the suspicion that it could be the mob spawning weight, which was later confirmed by fellow Psycraft member Nessie. So according to him, the drowned mob has a weight of 5 to spawn in an ocean biome, compared to 100 in a river biome. And also interestingly, they just have a weight of 1 in a frozen river. So they are 100 times less likely to spawn in a frozen river than in a normal river. So in total, they spawn about 53 times more likely or faster in rivers than in ocean biomes. It's probably intended that drowned mobs spawn that quickly in river biomes, because otherwise you probably would almost never see one. So at day they almost never spawn because the light level is too high for them to spawn, and even if at night if I fly around here, I very rarely see a drowned mob in a river. So they have to spawn this quickly in order to make any impact on river biomes at all in a normal survival world. So we can definitely take advantage of the high spawning rates, and that's why I set up 2 different farms. So the first one is similar to the farm in the ocean biome. So we have an AFK spot above the farm, and below we have a pool of water where the drowned mobs would spawn and slowly sink down, fall through the open fence gates. Could also use signs instead, and then they're flushed into a portal. Now, this small farm already yields about 900 drowned mobs per hour, so you can get about 15 tridents per hour. Disadvantage is that you need to go to the Nether dimension at some point in order to kill the drowned mobs. That's why I tried to make a farm where you would kill the drowned mobs while you could even AFK in the overworld. So here's the second mob farm that I built up. This should be a bit more convenient since you don't need to go to the Nether dimension. So I built it up really high in the world, which has the disadvantage that mob spawning is a bit slower. So you might notice with the subchunk rule, the higher you have an opaque block the lower the chance is for a mob to spawn in your spawning spaces. You also need to put a roof on top of the whole thing, since light level is also important for drown spawning. So it should be 0 like in a normal mob farm. Alright, so I built this high up in the world because the AFK spot is at 190. So this makes sure that there are no other mobs in the loaded area, and the mob cube isn't filled, so you can always get some drown spawning. So I'm at 193, and there's this 128 block despawn radius. Mobs that would spawn outside of that radius, which still happens, would be instantly despawned, and that's why the mob cap is freed up for the drown spawning. So 193 minus 128, so approximately at Y65, which is, yeah, here you can see the river biome, so no mob that would spawn in a cave or so would be loaded. You can see here those mobs they immediately spawned, but if we would go up again, then they would despawn. That's why the AFK spot has to be this high. Obviously, if you try to make a really efficient farm, a really fast farm for some reason, then you want to make a perimeter and build the farm as low as possible. But I think there's not much reason to try to make a super fast drown farm, since the only interesting drops are the Nautilus shells and the Trident, and once you have a decent amount, then you don't need any more. As you can see, you can get about 10 to 15 or maybe even 20 if you have more spawning spaces in range. Tridents with this farm per hour, and also a decent amount of Nautilus shells. So this is, for all realistic purposes, fast enough, I would say. Let's also take a look how this still very simple farm works. So I outlined the river biome like this in order to get every possible spawning space. So I made this outline here, and then I just have a 50 block drop where the drowned mobs would sink down. At the bottom I placed open fence gates. You could also use signs, which might be easy to place since you don't need to open those. And once the drowned mobs would fall out, they pathfind towards a turtle egg. And then they would try to pathfind over those trapdoors. So if they would be closed, then they could actually reach it, but since they're opened, they can't, so they would fall down, and the player can conveniently take them out. Right here. Okay, then it's also important that there's a maximum range where the drowned mobs would try to pathfind towards the turtle egg, which is 47 by 47. So over there, I'll build it up. Let's set time to night. Just want to show this. What's the range? So we got the turtle egg here in the middle, and if you would spawn a drowned mob, set the time to night so they would stop burning, then it would pathfind towards the turtle egg in a 47 by 47 range. Sometimes it takes a bit, but at some point it would start walking. Okay, so if they would stand just one block further out, then they would never pathfind towards the turtle egg. Also, I'm using a turtle egg here because I had some issues with the villager that I used first. The first idea was to have a villager here in the middle instead of the dragon egg in order to attract the drowned mobs. But that didn't work as well because the drowned mobs already started pathfinding while they were still in the water. In order to make them pathfind at all, the villager also needs to stand in water. It's also kind of interesting. So if you would stand on a on a dry surface, they wouldn't even pathfind. And now the issue was that the drowned mobs would start pathfinding while they were still in the water and started swimming and wouldn't fall out at the bottom. So I'm not sure if we... obviously not if I spawn a drowned mob. Let's get quickly rid of the guy and actually use a villager instead. Okay, so we have the villager. And maybe those will start pathfinding. Can also maybe spawn a few. By the way, this is flowing water. I also show this in the tutorial in the end, so you don't need to fill this up with water sources. Okay. Oh, yeah, here we have one. Okay, so those drowned mobs would start pathfinding while they're still in the water in order to reach the villager, and then you have the issue that they wouldn't make their way out. Even if we would replace this here with open fence gates, then they still, in some cases, would get stuck. So I tried it like this, but that also didn't help in a lot of cases, and this was an issue for the farm, even if I would try to do something like this. So that's why I decided, let's just use a turtle egg instead, and use that maximum range, since the farm is fast enough and the turtle egg is also really easy to get. Just need to breed some turtles and mine the turtle egg with a Silk Touch pickaxe. So I just want to show you how I can build this. It's very simple, there's not much to explain, but let's quickly go through the steps. Alright, so the first thing you probably want to do is mark out the river biome area. And also keep the 47 by 47 area in mind. So you could maybe mark it out like this and have a 47 by 47 area in the middle, and then you mark out your river biome. It's probably also good to search for a location that has a lot of river biomes within the 47 by 47. So here I looked for a curve, so the river biome goes around, so I get those additional spawning spaces as well. And then we continue with the marking. So you need to use the F3 menu, because looks can be deceiving. If you take a look at that river at the bottom, so the borders are not exact. For example, here, despite there being border, it's still a birch forest, but even in some cases, if there's dirt, then it could still be a river biome. So that's why you probably need your F3 menu, or you just don't care about the exact biomes and just spam a little bit more water. It's also an option, so then just have some additional water where no ground mobs can spawn, but it's also not a problem. Okay, so we'll definitely mark this out like this. Also keep in mind that you need 2 more blocks on top of this, where blocks can be placed. And yeah, let's just say this is already it. Just make a really small farm. Just want to show the concept. Then you would place some additional blocks around the actual biome, so like this. Okay, then you would get your water or ice blocks that you can break. Fill it all up. Sure you have sources. Then you can break the dirt. Alright, then we need to go down about 50 blocks. Okay, like this, maybe more, so up to Y200 maybe. Alright, then you would just place some glass around the water like this. Watch out that you don't mess it up, because this could be a bit of a problem. If the water spreads to the side, it's hard to get rid of it afterwards. So make sure you don't make any mistakes if possible. Just mark this out. Alright, and then we just add another layer here, so it's easy to place the signs or fence gates against. And I'm gonna get some signs this time. Then you aim at the second block and just fill this up with signs or fence gates. It's also nice in 1.13 you can finally place fence gates in mid-air, so it's not that hard anymore. Alright, should be it. Yeah, then you're already finished. Can maybe also fill it up completely with glass again, like I did here, but it's also not necessary. You can maybe mark out the 47 with 47 again and fill it up with glass. Maybe let's take a look at this farm. And then you just need to build, place your turtle egg in the middle and set up something like this. Also place blocks around here in order to make sure that they don't try to reach it directly. So they would pathfind around those blocks, fall down here. So you need a drop of at least 3 blocks, and then some hoppers here, chest, and then you could stand here with your looting 3 sword. Sweeping edge would be nice. Also sharpness is good. Since they're undead mobs, I think smite would also be a good option for the sword. Also get some mending so you don't lose any durability, and maybe unbreaking even. Okay, then you can collect the items here or add some kind of an item filter system. So all in all, the river biome farm is a bit quicker, or can be made quicker than the ocean biome farm, but requires a bit more effort since you also need a roof on top in order to make it dark enough. And yeah, marking out the river biome is a bit painful, to be honest. So this also takes a while. But it's a bit quicker, so this is definitely the advantage of the river biome farm. And if you would, for some reason, would go for a max efficiency drowned farm, then the river biome farm is probably also the way to go if you have a perimeter just for that. But as I said, there's probably no real reason to make a super fast drowned farm. It's enough to build the simple one. So a little preview for my next drowned farm video. I really liked that the river farm didn't require a portal, and you could just stand AFK in the overworld for a long amount of time without worrying about too many mobs in another dimension. That's why I decided to rebuild the river biome farm a little bit, and it's actually extremely simple. I will definitely make a separate video about this, just showing you how it would work. You can just, instead of sending the mobs to the nether, you could just extend the soul send bubble elevator up to the player's AFK spot, and then you probably want to funnel them to a single spot where you could again stand with a clicking script and just take them out. Alright. Yeah, but that's it. I would say both the ocean biome and the river biome farm are interesting. River farm is a bit quicker, or can be made quicker than the ocean biome farm, but requires a bit more effort. Thanks a lot for watching. See you on the next one. Bye bye.